Talk to me. Oh, a three-pointer!
LaMelo Ball is starting to look like the version of himself people only talked about in hypotheticals. The idea of a 6'7" point guard with deep range, elite passing instincts, and real control over pace has turned into a nightly reality for defenses across the league. This is the player front offices had in mind when they worried about what he could become over time. Don't get me wrong, LaMelo has always looked like a flashy built for the spotlight.
Time to announce the Kia NBA Rookie of the Year. Would it be Sacramento's Tyrese Halliburton, Minnesota's Anthony Edwards, or Charlotte's LaMelo Ball?
He won Rookie of the Year, was elected as an All-Star in 2022, and built a resume that holds up next to other young guards in his tier. The league knows he can put up numbers and carry an offense for stretches. But what he hasn't done yet is lead a team on a real postseason run. That question still hangs over everything he does. However, this version of LaMelo, more efficient, more controlled, and actually driving wins in real games that matter, starts to look like the answer to that question. In this video, we're going to break down how his body and game have matured, how his role in Charlotte's offense has shifted from chaos to command, and how all of that is translating into wins right now. If this is the level LaMelo is already reaching at this stage of his career, the rest of the East has to start treating him as a problem, not just a fun young guard on League Pass.
Off to the races, what do you got? Yes!
LaMelo Ball has always been built on feel. The handle, the touch, the angles on his passes, that was the part scouts couldn't really quantify when he was still a prospect. You can measure wingspan and vertical, but you can't measure how comfortable someone looks with the ball in their hands from the moment they cross half court. At 6'7", running point, LaMelo sees the floor from a different height and a different rhythm than most guards. The ball never sticks for long, and when it does, it's usually because he's processing where the help is coming from and which defender he wants to move first. That was true in high school, in the NBL, and the moment he stepped onto an NBA floor. The passing lanes he throws don't exist for other players because most guards don't even think to look for them. From day one in Charlotte, that feel showed up in the box score and on film. As a rookie, he averaged about 15 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists per game in just under 30 minutes, which is rare production for a first-year guard. The scoring came in bunches from deep pull-ups and crafty finishes, the rebounding let him grab and go without waiting for an outlet, and the playmaking told you he could already run an NBA offense at real speed. This foundation is what makes his evolution so dangerous. A player with this level of natural feel, backed by more disciplined pacing, better shot selection, and deliberate pick-and-roll usage, starts to look like a long-term offensive engine. Someone who can organize a team, raise its ceiling, and force opponents to game plan around his decisions every night. For all the talent LaMelo showed early, his first few seasons also came with a real question mark: durability.
LaMelo, step back three.
His ankles turned into the headline. He missed stretches of games, had seasons cut short, and built up that label of being exciting, but not always available when it mattered most. For a lead guard who's supposed to be the organizing force of a franchise, that kind of stop-and-start rhythm can stall everything. Those interruptions kept him from building the normal progression most young stars get. One month he's finding a rhythm and putting together all-star level stretches, and then the next month he's managing another leg injury, watching from the bench, and trying to stay involved from the sidelines. That pattern made it easy for people to question whether a team could realistically build around him. On top of that, his style of play fed into the criticism. The same freedom and creativity that made him fun to watch also led to questions about his shot selection, his turnovers, and how much control he really had over a game. You'd see nights where he hit impossible stepbacks and threw outrageous passes, and nights where the risk-reward balance tilted too far toward risk. The narrative of fun but not sustainable started to follow him. This season, and especially this recent stretch, feels like the response. LaMelo looks more settled in who he is as a primary creator. He's still aggressive, still confident, but there's a clearer sense of purpose behind what he's doing. He's managing possessions, understanding when to attack and when to pull back, and stringing together performances that look less like spikes and more like a steady level. For a player who already had all-star credentials, this hardened version of his game, more stable, more composed, and more focused on outcomes, sets the stage for everything that comes next in the Hornets season. LaMelo's evolution this season shows up in the numbers as much as it does on film. He's sitting around 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 7.5 assists per game, shooting about 43% from the field and close to 89% at the line. That's the profile of a primary ball handler who creates a lot of offense at a level you can actually build around. His usage has come down from the sky-high levels of last season when he was over 35%, but his offensive impact hasn't dipped with it. His true shooting is held steady, his assist numbers have stayed strong, and the team's net rating with him on the floor has swung into a positive range, which is a major shift from some of the earlier, more chaotic Hornets seasons. This is exactly what you want from a maturing lead guard. A big part of that is how he uses film and experience. Earlier in his career, he leaned on his ability to improvise. Now he comes into games with clearer ideas of how he wants to attack coverages and where his best spots are. When defenses go under, he's ready to pull. When they chase over, he's patient getting to the nail or the rim instead of rushing into traffic. You can also see the change in how he manages pace. He can still push in transition, but in the half court he picks his moments instead of living in fast forward. That shows up in the turnover profile and in how often Charlotte gets a real look out of basic actions. Physically, he's holding up better through contact, staying balanced on stepbacks, and converting at a rate that fits the workload. This version of LaMelo, backed by both per-game numbers and advanced metrics, looks like a guard who understands what it means to run a team over 82 games, not just light up a random game on a Tuesday. If you want to see what this new version of LaMelo actually looks like in practice, that Wizards game is a clear example of what this new version of him looks like. He put together a full line: 37 points, 10 threes on 12 attempts, 7 assists, and 8 rebounds. That shows how much more rounded and controlled his impact has become. A night like that says the different parts of his game are starting to sync. The shooting jumps off the page first. Hitting 10 of 12 from deep is elite shot making, but the way he got those looks is what connects to his evolution. He took shots that fit the rhythm of the offense: pull-ups when defenders went under, catch-and-shoot attempts when he spaced correctly, and threes created out of the actions Charlotte actually wants to run. Still, he had some heat checks, but that's Melo. The 7 assists and 8 rebounds complete the picture. He stayed active as a playmaker with no turnovers, kept finding teammates when he attracted the defense, and helped finish crash the glass. The box score reads like someone carrying a major scoring load while still doing the work of a primary guard and organizer. Seen in the context of this season, that game feels like a proof-of-concept moment. This is the evolution people were waiting on. LaMelo is a high-volume, high-efficiency shooter on the right night who also rebounds, sets the table, and keeps the offense steady. That mix turns him from a fun scorer into the kind of offensive engine teams have to worry about in a playoff race. This month in Charlotte, the Hornets finally look like a team that's starting to figure things out. They're 27-31 on the season, sitting 10th in the East, right in the middle of the play-in race with Atlanta and Milwaukee breathing down their necks. They've taken 7 of their last 10 games, and for a young group, that kind of stretch tracks directly with how steady LaMelo has become as the lead guard. He's setting the tone for how they play, but he's not doing it alone. Brandon Miller is giving them a real scoring wing next to him, and Knipple is playing well enough to sit near the top of the Rookie of the Year conversation. That kind of support makes LaMelo's playmaking hit harder and helps turn this stretch into something that actually looks sustainable. That 7 out of 10 run has pushed Charlotte firmly into the mix for a play-in spot and turned regular season nights into games with real stakes. The blowout wins, like the Washington game, and the tighter ones against teams around them in the standings are a real step forward, but they're still under 500, so there's clearly more work to do. For a player who already has an all-star nod and big numbers on his resume, this is the stretch people have been waiting to see. where his growth as a decision maker and leader shows up directly in the standings and forces the rest of the conference to treat both him and the Hornets as a problem in the race for those last postseason spots. LaMelo Ball is only 24 and already checks the key offensive boxes for a lead guard. He has size, pull-up shooting that stretches defenses, vision that punishes late help, and a growing ability to control tempo over a full game. That mix turns him from a pure highlight player into someone opponents have to plan around every night. The timing of this jump is what should concern the rest of the league. He is still adding layers to his game while learning how to win with a young core, and the Hornets are pulling off stretches like 7 wins in 10 games while fighting for a play-in spot. That is happening before he has even reached his peak years. Defenses no longer have a simple answer. Give him space and he is comfortable rising into threes. Crowd him and he uses his handle and height to get into gaps and find shooters. Switch and he sees over smaller defenders to reach his spots. A guard with that profile, paired with growing control and a clearer team identity around him, looks like the foundation Charlotte can build around for several seasons. If you made it this far, drop your thoughts on LaMelo in the comments and tell me where you think his ceiling really is. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and share this with another Hoops fan who still doesn't realize how serious this version of LaMelo Ball is.